Hello everybody, Lego Master JM or the Dr. 727 with Frost County's Bravest here for a little bit of a small update video. In this update video, we're going to be covering over all the things that we've updated so far where people have had questions or concerns about that stuff. So I've decided to do a video on and cover some of your guys' questions or concerns for what's going on. I would be more than happy to do this another time if we get enough that happens again, even after this video. But I want to clear up some of the questions and concerns that people have had. More in the things of what has been updated with the CAD system is more for the communication side of the system. As well as some small things with some departments. For example, as you can see kind of on this roster as is, 2 days ago we released this update for 1.8.10. We added the self-dispatch option for CAD systems to all departments. This was kind of more implemented in 1.8.9 with that, and has been fine-tweaked a small bit into terms with that self-dispatch option. We've also added fire tones for the fire department related calls for FCFD and for FCDOC tabs. So basically, if you hit the fire tone, it'll give a little bit of a fire tone. It'll notify people in the fire department that there's a call. It may play twice on accident, but we're still fixing that. We removed the DOT, so Department of Transportation is no longer a thing. With this in mind, it is now considered something under the civilian operations, so civilians can operate as tow people or stuff like that. Just advised when they are towed to be in the corresponding Discord channel for that on our Discord server. With that in mind, that's how that's going to work. We have a specific tow-related channel for that, and if you're doing tow roleplays and whatnot, you need to be in there. So that way, if a dispatcher needs to grab you for a call that, say, an MVA happens or a pursuit ends and whatnot, and they need tow en route to that location, you're still on tow, you can be dispatched, quote-unquote, out to that and have some fun with that. You also will note that our departments have changed. You're only allowed 2 departments, for a primary and a secondary department. Dispatching is allowed as well. However, if you use that as a quote-unquote third department, it is considered a reserve department. My primary department is the sheriff department, my secondary department is the fire department, and then my third/reserve department is the Department of Communications. So, with that in mind, you have your different identifiers for all 3 departments. Make sure you double check on those. If you do not know what your call sign is for a department, you can always refer back to the rosters, like this one, which I'll explain what has happened to some of the rosters as well. Kind of going into the department stuff with the rules and regulations, we did update 3 rules on here, and that is, I believe, rules, let me see here. Yeah, Rule 7, Rule 13, and Rule 18. I will go through Rule 7 first. So, primary and second departments require at least 2 patrols a month. Reserve departments require at least 1 patrol a month. Exceptions are only during months with major holidays, to where you are on an LOA for a vacation or something else to that effect. Requirements can be met by clocking in at least 1 hour in a department. So one department is classified as 1 shift. So one day that you're on is classified as 1 patrol or 1 shift. Basically, if you didn't know what LOAs are, leave of absences, which they are to the staff, mod, or COC discretion. Standard FCB LOA is 2 weeks. However, this is subject to change via staff mod discretion of a situation that you have advised of. Going on to 13, which is your due calling policy. You are allowed to be a part of other communities so long as you don't hold a major staff or admin position with said community. This is subject to be fluent to where we can allow this if needed desperately in terms of said other community. However, you must still meet all attendance requirements for FCB. In the terms of what do I mean by major staff or admin position, if you are a community manager among a bunch of different other community managers, that's honestly fine. However, if you are essentially in a huge admin position to where you're an admin in a community that's apart from FCB, that is involved majorly in what happens for that community, we're kind of iffy on that because of the fact that basically negates your attendance stuff, and you may not be able to fill out attendance requirements as much as you need to, which you can compensate by only being in one department or only having your secondary, basically only having a primary and a secondary and no reserve or something like that. Honestly, it's figuring out something that works for you in that situation, which we're lenient about and can work out. Just make sure that you advise staff when you have that sort of issue, and we'll try and figure out to the best of our ability for that. Then Rule 18. Other than a primary department, you are allowed to have a second department and a reserve in DOC if you wish to do so. As well, you can transfer your primary or secondary department to a different order. However, the following requirements must be met in order to do so. 2 active weeks within FCB, minimum of at least 10 patrols that you've attended, with that being at least an hour in each of those. Must follow any and all department protocols, for example, uniform policies, hat policies, package policies, stuff like that. And do note communication is exempt, and you will be marked as reserve if you are already a part of 2 other departments. You can do reserve in communications if you wish to. It's not saying you have to, it is if you wish to. Disclaimer, requirements for transfers are subject to change per department. It is up to your primary or secondary COC whether or not to allow you to have a secondary or reserve department or switch orders around of your departments. Still note, you must still meet your attendance requirements for all departments that you're part of. Anyways, moving on to our next thing, which is some of the rosters that we've updated. Some of the rosters we've fully updated to the best of our ability for these current, for the current time of recording this. So as of the current time recording this is April 15th, 2020. So that's how that works. For the civilian operations personnel roster, we've now added qualifications for priorities. You can do priorities for the different commands that you're a part of. So, for example, upper, lower, and civilian 3s can do priorities. Civilian 2 and civilian 1 people can do priorities if permitted to do so by their advisors. So essentially, if a civilian 3 or up that is a part of the CTO stuff and is CTO plus, so either CTO or COC, not CTO Proby, they can allow you to do that sort of stuff. If they're still a Proby, they're still learning the stuff, so they don't really have jurisdiction to allow you to be doing priorities for that time being. Civilian 3s can request to be CTOs, which is essentially civilian training officers, or which are basically the people that help the civilians through what's going on and whatnot. For probationary civilians, they do not have the option to do priorities at all, not even if permitted to do so. They do not have the option of doing that at all. Basically, to get yourself out of the probationary phase, it's making your attendance requirements and whatnot And basically, at the end of the month, we check every attendance log and whatnot. So at every month, we'll check attendance logs and go from the hours that you've listed on shift and tally all those up and whatnot, um, and go from there, and so on and so forth. Which your department's COCs tally that up, and whatnot. So, however many hours you've clocked in total adds up towards your possible promotions and whatnot. But yeah, that's how that works for that. Really, to be honest, I think the only one that we've kind of updated so far with more of the stuff is the CivOps. However, all other rosters should be updated correctly with all the personnel that are currently on there, and so on and so forth. With the attendance logs, all people must fill out attendance logs when they start and end their patrols. Um, so if they're running late, they have to basically clock in when they're in the server and whatnot. For some people, you may have an identifier. For others, you may not. It does not matter. You can put your identifier if you have one, and put your Roblox username. For example, if I was a probationary deputy or lower, so basically recruit, a cadet, or a probationary for the sheriff department, I would not have an identifier, so I would just put my Roblox username. You do not have to put an identifier if you do not have one. Then essentially how you fill this out is you can basically choose which one you're attending. So if you're attending a patrol and you're actually patrolling and on your own, you're good. If you're attending a training, click training. If you're doing a ride along with somebody on patrol, click ride along. For training or ride alongs, you'll basically do it as so: channel, event, host, /RA unit. So basically, for trainings, it's the host. For the ride along, it's the RA unit. So, for example, training 1, FTO training, and the host being the Dr. 727, which is me, or RA1, ride along, and then identifier and the Roblox username for that. So, for example, in the terms of normal training, it would be training 1, then training, and then the host, which would usually be me or somebody else, depending on the different situation. But essentially, you can fill it out like so, or you can do stuff for ride-alongs and whatnot. So, RA1, basically, it's going for your Discord channels and whatnot for what channels you're in there. Ride-along, and then whichever unit you currently are riding along with their identifier, so that basically we know. And then go click next, and then click check in if you're timing into the patrol, or check out if you're checking out of the patrol, and so on and so forth. And then basically hit submit, and that submits it to our database, so we're good there. But yeah, that is really it for all the things that we've kind of updated. There's not really much that we've updated. It's just small things. Oh, I almost forgot. I do apologize for this. Applications are still open for the time being for different departments. This will be closed Saturday. So applications will be closed on Saturday. We have yet to find a time for that, but that will be advised further up. So applications are open until Saturday. Unknown time at this time. However, we will update you in the Discord for when that happens. As well, we now have a interview server on our on Discord for any interviews that we do with any of the people that are involved with FCB or are trying to get into a new department and whatnot. But anyways, that is really it. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it informational and had your questions answered. Please leave us a like, it is greatly appreciated, as well as subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with anything that we release. Is greatly appreciated, and we thank you for the support. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comments below. We'll try and respond to them as soon as possible. Or you can email us at our email address, which is listed in the description. Anyways, thank you again so much for watching.